High Counselor Vexterra of the Galactic Assembly stood frozen before the holographic display, her crystalline form reflecting scattered light across the chamber walls. The data scrolling before her third eye defied every principle of xenobiology she had learned in her 2 centuries of life. She rechecked the verification codes for the 4th time. They remained authentic. "This cannot be accurate," she whispered to her aide, a younger crystalline who shifted nervously beside her. "You're telling me this human has lived for over 500 years. The genetic markers and historical records are conclusive, High Counselor," the aide responded, manipulating the display to show a timeline of verified appearances. Ambassador Sarah Chen has been continuously active in human diplomatic circles since their first contact with the Arcturus Alliance in 2387. She has served as Earth's representative through 15 different administrations. The irony wasn't lost on Vexterra. Just 50 years ago, during the contentious debates over human admission to the Assembly, she had joined many others in questioning humanity's fitness for membership. Their brutally short lifespans, barely a century at best, had been seen as proof of their evolutionary inadequacy. How could a species that burned through generations so quickly develop the wisdom and perspective needed for galactic governance? Yet here was evidence that at least one human had discovered something unprecedented. The implications were staggering. "What do the humans say about this?" Vexterra asked, her crystalline fingers tracing the arc of historical data points. "That's the most remarkable part, High Counselor. They claim to have no special technology or treatment responsible for Ambassador Chen's longevity. According to their records, she simply stopped aging." The chamber doors parted with a soft hiss, and Vexterra turned to face the subject of their discussion. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked in with the same measured grace she had displayed for centuries, her dark eyes holding depths that Vexterra had never truly appreciated before. She appeared to be in her mid-30s by human standards, and apparently had maintained that appearance for half a millennium. "High Counselor," Chen greeted her with a slight bow. "I understand my medical records have caused quite a stir." "Ambassador Chen," Vexterra acknowledged, her tone carefully neutral. "Or should I say, the eternal diplomat, as some have begun calling you. Your existence raises many questions." A small smile played across Chen's lips. "Questions I've been asking myself for a very long time, Counselor. Though I suspect your concerns are more political than philosophical. The Assembly is troubled by the implications. If humanity has developed life extension technology in secret, we haven't," Chen interrupted firmly. "I am, as far as we know, unique. A statistical anomaly that has puzzled our best scientists for centuries." Vexterra's aide shifted forward. "Surely you must have some theory about your condition." "Many theories, but no concrete answers. I was born in 2354, lived a normal life, and somewhere around my 35th year, simply stopped experiencing the effects of time. No dramatic moment of transformation, no secret elixir or experimental treatment. One day I simply realized that while everyone around me was aging, I remained unchanged." The ambassador moved to the window, gazing out at the glittering expanse of the Galactic Assembly's orbital complex. "The irony isn't lost on me, Counselor. Your people, the crystallines, live for centuries. The Arcturians can reach a millennium. Even the short-lived Vesperi typically see 200 years. Humanity's brief lifespan has been a source of quiet condescension since we joined the galactic community. Yet here you stand," Vexterra observed, "having outlived generations of your own kind." "Here I stand," Chen agreed, turning back to face them. "A reminder that the universe is far more mysterious than our scientific certainties would suggest. Though I must admit, living this long has given me a unique perspective on both humanity's strengths and weaknesses." Vexterra moved closer, her curiosity overtaking diplomatic reserve. "How so?" "We humans live with an acute awareness of our mortality. It drives us to accomplish more in decades than some species achieve in centuries. We love fiercely, create passionately, and never stop pushing boundaries. My condition hasn't changed that fundamental truth. It's simply given me more time to observe its effects. The High Counselor considered this. And now that your secret is known, is it a secret when you've been hiding in plain sight for centuries? Chen smiled. I've served openly as Earth's representative all this time. Perhaps it says more about the Assembly's preconceptions that no one thought to check the historical records until now. Vexterra's aide cleared their throat. The Scientific Council is requesting immediate access to you for study. No doubt they are, Chen replied calmly. And I'm willing to cooperate, under certain conditions. But first, I believe the Assembly needs to address its own biases. You've dismissed humanity as primitive based on our typical lifespan. Perhaps it's time to re-examine what truly matters in measuring a species' worth. The High Counselor felt the weight of centuries of assumptions beginning to crack. You've given us much to consider, Ambassador. We have time, Chen said with a gentle smile. Though perhaps not as much as you might think. Something is coming, Counselor. Something that will make these discussions of lifespan seem quaint in comparison. My longevity may be unique, but humanity's adaptability, that's what you should really be studying. As Chen turned to leave, Vexterra called after her. What do you mean, something is coming? The ambassador paused at the doorway. Let's just say that living for 500 years gives you a different perspective on patterns. And the pattern I'm seeing now, well, that's a discussion for another day. The Grand Scientific Institute of the Galactic Assembly buzzed with an energy not seen in decades. In the primary research chamber, dozens of the galaxy's most renowned xenobiologists gathered around a central platform where Ambassador Chen sat calmly, surrounded by scanning equipment from a dozen different worlds. Dr. Zixlax, a Vesperi scientist whose gossamer wings shimmered with bioluminescent patterns of excitement, adjusted another scanner. His species' natural lifespan of 200 years made him relatively young among his peers, though he had already outlived several generations of humans. Fascinating. He chittered, compound eyes fixed on the readings. Your telomeres show no degradation whatsoever. It's as if your cellular structure simply forgot to age. That's one way of putting it, Chen replied, watching the swarm of activity around her with patient amusement. Though your predecessor said almost the exact same thing about 200 years ago. The reminder of her longevity sent a ripple of discomfort through the assembled scientists. A crystalline researcher named Valtrix stepped forward, her form refracting light in patterns that indicated deep thought. Ambassador, we've analyzed the historical medical data you provided. There's no record of any experimental treatments, genetic modifications, or even unusual environmental exposure before your aging ceased. Nothing to explain this phenomenon. Chen nodded. As I've maintained for centuries, though I notice your teams seem more interested in my biology than my experiences. Typical of the Assembly, always looking for technological solutions to biological questions. Dr. Zixlax paused in his scanning. You suggest an alternative approach. I suggest that you're all so focused on how I stopped aging that you haven't considered why. Chen stood up, causing several scientists to step back instinctively. In 500 years, I've watched civilizations rise and fall. I've seen humanity push beyond its cradle into the stars. I've buried friends, lovers, children, and grandchildren. Don't you think that experience itself might be relevant to your research? High Counselor Vexterra, who had been observing from the chamber's upper level, descended to join the discussion. You believe there's a psychological component to your condition. I believe that human consciousness might be more complex than your species gives us credit for, Chen replied. We've always been adaptable. It's how we survived on a planet that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. Perhaps my condition is just another adaptation. A murmur ran through the assembled scientists. Valtrix stepped forward again. Are you suggesting that human consciousness can influence cellular regeneration? I'm suggesting that your species' long lifespans have made you complacent. You view time as a constant, aging as inevitable. Humans have never had that luxury. We've always raged against the dying of the light. Poetic, Vexterra observed, but hardly scientific. Chen smiled. No. Then explain why every attempt to replicate my condition has failed. Your scientists have mapped my genome, analyzed every molecule in my body, yet you can't explain why I'm different. Perhaps you're asking the wrong questions. Dr. Zixlax's wings fluttered in agitation. What questions should we be asking? Why did it happen when it did? What was I thinking, feeling, experiencing at the moment my aging stopped? And why has it only happened to me, out of billions of humans? The ambassador walked to a window overlooking the Institute's vast research complex. I remember the exact moment, you know. I was standing on a hill on Earth, watching the sunset. My daughter had just left for college, and I was thinking about time, how quickly it passes, how precious each moment is. And I made a decision. A decision, Vexterra prompted. To truly live in each moment. To stop seeing time as an enemy to be fought, but as a gift to be embraced. It sounds simple, perhaps even naive. But something changed in me that day. Something fundamental. Valtrix's crystalline form sparkled with interest. You're suggesting a shift in consciousness actually altered your physical biology. I'm suggesting that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our ability to imagine possibilities beyond what seems natural or inevitable. We've never accepted limitations, never bowed to what others call impossible. The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. Finally, Dr. Zixlax spoke. If what you're suggesting is true, it would revolutionize our understanding of consciousness, aging, and the very nature of life itself. Perhaps, Chen agreed. But there's something else you should consider. I'm not just a scientific curiosity. I'm a warning. Vexterra stepped closer. A warning? Of what? Chen turned to face the assembled scientists, her expression grave. Of change. Humanity isn't going to stop with one accidental immortal. We're pushing boundaries you haven't even imagined yet. And when we break through, she left the thought unfinished. The High Counselor felt a chill despite her crystalline nature. You mentioned before that something was coming. Is this what you meant? Part of it, Chen replied. But there's more. Much more. And I'm not sure the Assembly is ready for what happens when humanity truly understands what we're capable of. Ambassador Chen stood in her private quarters aboard the Galactic Assembly Station, staring at a wall of holographic images spanning 5 centuries of human history. Each image captured a moment, a face, a memory that she alone still carried. Her daughter Emma at graduation, now dust for 400 years. Her great-great-grandson Thomas, who had died 2 centuries ago defending humanity's first extrasolar colony. The door chimed, interrupting her reverie. Enter, she called, not turning from the display. High Counselor Vexterra stepped into the room, her crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the historical tableau. She paused, taking in the scope of the display. Your family? She asked softly. All of them, Chen replied. Every generation, every branch of the tree. I've watched them live, love, achieve great things, and die. Do you know what it's like, Counselor, to attend the funeral of your own great-great-great-grandchild? Vexterra moved closer, studying the images. Even for my species, such an experience would be extraordinary. Your people live for centuries, yes. But you age, you change, you share the journey of time with your peers. I remain frozen while the world spins on around me. Chen waved a hand, and the images shifted to show historical events. First contact, colonial expansions, technological leaps. The Assembly thinks my condition is a gift, a breakthrough to be studied and replicated. They don't understand the price. Tell me, Vexterra said, settling into a nearby chair designed to accommodate her crystalline physiology. Chen finally turned from the display. Do you know why humans write so much poetry about death, Counselor? Why we're so obsessed with our mortality? Your short lifespans make death a more immediate concern. No, Chen shook her head. It's because death gives life meaning. The knowledge that our time is limited makes each moment precious. What happens to that meaning when time becomes infinite? Vexterra considered this. Yet you've accomplished so much in your extended life. Your diplomatic career alone is a way to stay sane, Chen interrupted. A purpose I cling to because the alternative is to drift in an endless sea of time. She gestured to a particular image, a young woman with Chen's eyes. That's my daughter Emma. She was brilliant, fierce, determined to make her mark on the world before time ran out. She revolutionized quantum communications in just 40 years of work. What would she have thought of her mother now, still here while her achievements gathered dust in historical archives? You feel guilt for surviving. I feel disconnected. Humanity's greatness comes from our drive to matter, to make our brief lives count for something. We push boundaries because we know we don't have centuries to wait for gradual change. Chen's voice grew passionate. Do you know what I realized after the first century? Why no other human has replicated my condition? Vexterra leaned forward. Tell me. Because deep down, we don't want to. Not really. We want to live fully, not endlessly. The Assembly sees us as primitive because we burn so bright and brief, but that's exactly what makes us powerful. The High Counselor's crystalline surface rippled with thought patterns. Yet you said humanity is pushing boundaries. That change is coming. Yes. Chen smiled sadly. But not the change you expect. We're not trying to extend our lives. We're trying to expand them. To experience more, feel more, achieve more in the time we have. She turned back to the wall of images. The Assembly scientists are so focused on my physical condition that they're missing the real transformation. Which is, humanity is evolving, Counselor. Not towards immortality, but towards something perhaps even more frightening to the Assembly. We're learning to compress centuries of experience and achievement into decades, to live more fully, more intensely, than any species you've encountered. A soft alert chimed through the room. Chen glanced at a data display, and her expression shifted. Ah, right on schedule. What is? The future, Chen replied cryptically. Tell me, Counselor, have you received any unusual reports from the frontier colonies today? Vexterra's form stiffened. How did you? Because I've seen the pattern before. Humanity pushing boundaries, the Assembly dismissing our efforts as primitive or doomed to fail, and then she left the thought hanging. There have been anomalies reported, energy signatures we can't explain. But what does this have to do with? Everything, Chen interrupted. It has everything to do with why I'm here, why I've stayed in this role for centuries. I needed to be here for what comes next. What comes next? Chen waved her hand, and the wall of family images was replaced by a star map. Points of light began pulsing in a complex pattern. Humanity hasn't been idle these past centuries, Counselor. While the Assembly debated our worthiness, while your scientists studied my biology, we've been preparing. Not for eternal life, but for eternal change. Vexterra watched as the pattern of pulsing lights grew more complex. What am I seeing? The future, Chen replied simply. And the real reason the Assembly should be paying attention to humanity. Because living forever, that was just the beginning. The Galactic Assembly's emergency session chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member species packed the tiered seating, their varied physiologies creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. At the center of the chamber, High Counselor Vexterra stood beside Ambassador Chen, both watching as the holographic display showed the impossible. These readings cannot be accurate, declared arch-scientist Mrill of the Vesperi, his wings vibrating with agitation. The energy signatures from the human frontier colonies defy known physics. Known physics, Chen emphasized the first word. But as I've been trying to tell you all for centuries, humanity's understanding of the possible has always been flexible. The display showed dozens of human colonies pulsing with strange energy patterns, creating a web of interconnected phenomena that stretched across sectors of space. Data streamed alongside the visual, measurements that caused several scientists to emit sounds of distress or disbelief. "Explain," Vexterra commanded, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated deep concern. Chen stepped forward, her eternal youth now seeming less remarkable compared to what the display revealed. "What you're seeing is the fruit of 5 centuries of human development. While the assembly focused on extending life, we focused on expanding it. These colonies aren't just settlements. They're nodes in a vast network of human consciousness." "Impossible," Rill declared. "The energy requirements alone would be impossible using conventional physics," Chen agreed. "But we stopped thinking conventionally a long time ago. Each of these colonies has developed what we call a consciousness amplification network. It allows humans within its field to experience time differently." Valtrix, who had been studying the data intently, looked up. "Differently how?" "We can accelerate our subjective experience of time. A human within the network can live a subjective century in the span of a year, processing information and experiences at an unprecedented rate. Or we can slow it down, experiencing every moment with incredible depth and clarity." The chamber erupted in chaos as the implications became clear. Vexterra raised a crystalline arm for silence. "You're saying humans have learned to manipulate their perception of time itself." "More than perception," Chen corrected. "We've learned to expand our consciousness in ways your scientists thought impossible. Each node in the network is filled with humans living lifetimes in the span of months, generating innovations and insights at an exponential rate. This explains the sudden leap in human technological development," Valtrix mused. "The unexplained breakthroughs are the result of centuries of subjective research compressed into months of objective time," Chen confirmed. "And my condition, it wasn't an accident. I was the first successful test of human consciousness affecting physical reality. My eternal youth was never about the body. It was about the mind's ability to rewrite the rules of its own existence." The display shifted, showing the energy patterns spreading, connecting, forming new configurations. "What you're witnessing," Chen continued, "is humanity transcending the traditional limits of consciousness. We're not extending our lives, we're expanding them. Living more fully, thinking more deeply, experiencing more intensely than any species thought possible." "This is why you remained as ambassador all these years," Vexterra realized. "To be here for this moment." Chen nodded. "To help the Assembly understand that humanity's greatest strength was never our longevity or lack thereof. It was our refusal to accept limitations, our drive to experience everything life has to offer, no matter how impossible it seemed." "And now?" asked a voice from the gathered representatives. "Now," Chen smiled. "Now we invite the Assembly to join us. The network is stable, expanding, and ready to accept other species. Imagine what we could achieve together, not just living longer, but living deeper, experiencing existence in ways none of us have dreamed possible." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, the species they had dismissed as primitive due to their short lives, had discovered something far more valuable than simple longevity. They had found a way to transcend the very nature of conscious experience itself. "There will be those who fear this," Vexterra warned, "who will see it as a threat to the natural order." "Of course," Chen agreed, "just as they feared my condition when it was discovered. But fear of the unknown has never stopped humanity from pushing boundaries. The question is, will the Assembly continue to dismiss us as primitive, or will you join us in exploring what consciousness can truly become?" The energy patterns on the display continued their complex dance, a testament to humanity's refusal to accept the impossible. And in the charged silence of the chamber, the future of galactic civilization hung in the balance. In the months following the revelation of humanity's consciousness amplification network, the Galactic Assembly transformed. The grand halls that had once echoed with debates about species superiority now buzzed with discussions of possibility and potential. Ambassador Chen watched it all from her familiar perch in the diplomatic quarter, a cup of centuries-old Earth tea cooling before her. The first integration trials were successful, High Counselor Vexterra announced, her crystalline form shimmering with excitement as she entered Chen's office. 3 different species, all successfully connected to the network. The Vesperi scientist who volunteered reported experiencing 3 years of subjective time in just a week. Chen smiled, lifting her cup in a quiet toast. And how is Dr. Mrill handling his new perspective? He's changed, Vexterra admitted, settling into her customized chair. He speaks of colors we cannot see, of thoughts too vast for traditional language. Some find his reports disturbing. Of course they do. Chen set down her cup. We're not just offering extended life or accelerated thought. We're offering transformation. Evolution. Not everyone is ready for that. The holographic display on Chen's wall showed the network's continued expansion. New nodes appeared daily as more colonies and species joined the experiment. Each point of light represented thousands of minds experiencing time and consciousness in ways previously thought impossible. There's resistance, Vexterra noted. The Crystalline Orthodox Federation is calling it an abomination. They say we're playing with forces beyond our understanding. They're right about that last part, Chen laughed softly. We don't fully understand it. That's what makes it so perfectly human. We've never let our lack of complete understanding stop us from pushing forward. A notification chimed, and new data scrolled across the display. Chen's expression softened as she read. Ah, right on schedule. What is it? The network has reached critical mass. The effects are becoming self-sustaining. Watch. The display shifted, showing a 3-dimensional map of known space. Points of light representing network nodes began to pulse in harmony, creating patterns that seemed to ripple through the very fabric of reality. What we're seeing, Chen explained, is consciousness itself evolving. Not just human consciousness, but all consciousness. The network isn't just allowing us to experience time differently, it's changing the way the universe experiences itself. Vexterra's crystalline surface rippled with patterns of awe and concern. You knew this would happen. I suspected. It's why I stayed in this role for so long. Someone needed to be here who could understand both the before and after. Chen stood, walking to the window that overlooked the vast expanse of space. Do you know what I realized after 500 years of life? Tell me. That immortality was never the goal. Humanity's greatest achievement isn't living forever, it's living fully. We've taken that drive, that desperate hunger to experience everything life has to offer, and we've turned it into something that transcends individual existence. The display showed more species joining the network, each adding their unique consciousness to the growing tapestry of expanded existence. The patterns grew more complex, more beautiful, more impossible to describe in conventional terms. What happens now? Vexterra asked, her voice barely a whisper. Chen turned from the window, and for a moment, Vexterra saw something in her eyes that seemed to stretch beyond normal space and time. Now we become something new. Not just humans, not just individual species, but consciousness itself evolving. The universe is waking up, Counselor, and we're all part of that awakening. And your role in all this? Will you continue as ambassador? No, Chen smiled, looking back at the wall of family photographs that had witnessed so much history. My time as ambassador is ending. I was the bridge between what humanity was and what it could become. But now, she gestured to the display, where the network's patterns had begun to form structures that defy description. Now we need representatives who can navigate this new reality, who can help guide us all through the transformation to come. Are you afraid? Vexterra asked suddenly. Of what we're becoming? Afraid? No. Awed. Yes, this is what humanity has always been meant for, not to conquer time, but to transform it, not to live forever, but to live beyond what forever meant. Chen picked up her teacup, now cold, and smiled at the leaves settled at the bottom. You know, in all my centuries of life, I never lost my taste for this simple earth drink. It reminds me that even as we transcend our limitations, we carry our humanity with us. The network's display showed another surge of activity, another wave of consciousness expanding beyond traditional bounds. In the depths of space, humanity's gift to the galaxy continued to grow, offering not immortality, but something far more precious: the chance to experience existence itself in ways no one had ever dreamed possible. And in her quiet office, surrounded by 500 years of memories, Ambassador Sarah Chen watched the future unfold, knowing that the end of her diplomatic career marked not an ending, but a beginning, not just for humanity, but for consciousness itself.